welcome to this webinar series. And every first Friday of every month, we'll have a guest, an expert guest coming and speaking on various topics in project management. So come, increase your knowledge, share your knowledge, learn, grow, and we'll do that together every month. And this month maybe I should introduce myself because probably you don't know me. I am Nadège Minois. I'm a consultant and trainer in project management communication, and I will be the host during this webinar series. So I will be the one introducing the series and our very distinguished speakers every month. And this month, I'm really thrilled to receive Lloyd Skinner. And Lloyd is going to talk to us about AI in project management. So let me tell you very briefly a little bit about today's speakers. So Lloyd is the CEO of Greyfly.ai, and for 6 years now, he's been investigating the use of AI in project management and developing a suite of intelligent project prediction tools. He's spoken both in the UK and internationally on AI in project management. He was telling me earlier about one of his talks, actually in France, where I'm from. And he has 20 plus years of experience in program management too. So he has led best-in-class, full life cycle, multi-year, multi-millions change and transformation project. And is also the non-executive director at 3 other companies. So that was it for me. And now it's up to you, Lloyd.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everybody. Assuming it is morning where you are, thank you for sparing your valuable time to listen to me this morning. I'm going to just kick off by sort of patting you all on the back. And the reason why I'm patting you all on the back is because you're working in the world of projects and project management. And I can tell you it's a fantastic time to be in the world of projects and project management. According to lots and lots of people, there is a huge growth in the demand for us to support the implementation of projects. And not only that, at the same time, we're going through what we call the fourth industrial revolution, that technology is going to make our life a lot easier at the same time. And of course, at the heart of some of this technology is AI. I think we're all hit by AI, not just in the world of projects, but in our personal lives. I'm sure some of you have been reading the latest and greatest AI stories this morning. So well done. Life is going to be a lot easier. Let me tell you a little bit more about that. Just to build on my intro there quickly, and you know, it is pertinent. So some 6 years ago, I went on a post-masters. I did a master's in information systems at LSE, and that was in the early 90s, as it were. And I went on my 25-year post-masters and bumped into my now co-founder. She worked for the big 4 management consultancy companies in an assurance and audit vein. And we got talking about projects and our experiences on projects. And you know, we were thinking about how they could be improved, if you like. And at that time, you know, the technology that we'd been taught about hadn't really been applied to the world of projects, you know, data, big data, cloud compute, or AI, as it were. So since then, that's what we've been looking at. We've been researching and building products that can use AI to increase project success, as it were. So what we're going to cover today is three key areas. First of all, we're going to cover what is this AI in project management, and hold on to your hats, people. It's more than Chat GPT. It's not just Gen AI that we're going to talk about. We're also going to look at some enterprise case studies that we've been lucky enough to get in place. I wasn't grey before I started this journey. I certainly am now. So I'm going to talk about some of the lessons that we've learned around this journey as well. Now, what I would say, please feel free to use the chat to drop in questions at any time, and I will be stopping as I go through this talk, and we'll pick up some of those questions. But before I do that, I just wanted to get a feel for the experience in the room. And just to make this a little bit more light-hearted, I thought we could assess our AI knowledge aligned to Star Wars. So do we have any Ewoks in the room, or dare I say it, do we have any Yodas? And perhaps if there are Yodas, you should be on this side of the fence and presenting. So if you could just take 1 second and drop into the chat where you think your level of knowledge is in terms of AI. Are you an Ewok or are you a Yoda? So basically, I think all of us are doing something with AI these days, even if you don't realize it. So at a bare minimum, I think you're at least cute and curious. And for me, what a great place to be, in terms of a curiosity, thinking about how you could use AI. But are you more mature? Are you using AI? Maybe you're using it on a personal basis. I don't know, to create your work breakdown structures, to create your key documents, or perhaps actually with your organization, they're really embracing AI, in certain use cases. I don't know, workflow automation or even project prediction or something. So, Naja, how are we getting on there? Where are people sitting on their maturity level? Don't be shy, people.
Yeah, so it's mostly Ewok and Chewbacca. We have a few Princess Leia, but so far nobody above these levels. And yeah, mostly
Yeah.
Chewbacca and Ewok.
Oh, that's fantastic. And to be honest, that's broadly in line with my expectations. What I would say, the fact that you're seeing some Princess Leias, and don't be shy, chaps, we can be Princess Leias as well. For me, this is something that I'm increasingly seeing over time. When I asked this question 12 months ago, 18 months ago, there was nobody at Leia, and there was hardly anybody at the Chewbacca level. So what you can see here is this environment that we're in is starting to mature. And of course it's starting to mature because everybody's telling us to get on this AI bandwagon. Before we talk about that a little bit more, I just wanted to sort of say, well, hold on a second. What is the need for AI in the first place? What problem are we trying to solve? Now, I'm sure all of us have seen these various professional bodies, whether it's PMI, APM, or IPM, that have been talking about that, unfortunately, in particular, when you look at original plans, original budgets, we don't necessarily deliver projects to time, to money, or unlock those objectives. So for me, the headline of all of this is trying to improve project success. Now, obviously, in the language I used there, I was talking about traditional project success, delivery to plan, budget, the iron triangle. I know that PMI have just launched a new definition of what project success is that also takes account of value. Actually, I was part of that working group, so I'm very close to that. And the point there was that value may change over time, or it may have different value to different stakeholders. But for the simplicity of this conversation, let's just talk about that core project success. And we're also in an environment where our senior responsible people are pushing us to do more and more projects. and of course, they're not necessarily giving us more and more resource to do those either. So, if we can do more for less through the application of technology, wouldn't that be great? I think the other point here is that, for many a year, and I'm guilty of this as much as the next person, is I would start a new project and I almost start with a blank bit of paper. I start the whole journey again and I forget that, that there's, projects are somewhat repeatable, no matter how complex they are, there are certainly some lessons that you can learn from the past, as it were. The other thing I just want to focus on there is that there's a direct relationship between data maturity, project management maturity, and project success. And of course, we haven't helped ourselves as teams. Every time a new person comes into an organization, they have their own way of working, and we reinvent how we manage projects, the project methodology, and we haven't classified that data. We haven't really cleaned that data up. So in terms of taking data seriously, we haven't done that. But hold on a second, people. Over the hill comes AI to solve all of our problems. And I think this is the case that, we're increasingly realizing as a profession that AI is part of this solution of increasing project success. And you can see a couple of stats I've pulled out there. This recognition that adoption is along the way. We talked about it earlier that perhaps now we're starting to touch on going beyond individual experimentation into companies starting to embrace. Don't get me wrong, people, obviously, cautiously, companies, certainly larger companies, don't change overnight. We know that, but there's a huge opportunity here to leverage AI to increase efficiency and to enhance decision making and streamlining projects. In fact, what you can see there from the PMI's point of view is that those early adopters, and I do believe that they are still early adopters of embracing AI, are seeing some really great return on investment, as it were. 93%. Wow. I think we should all be getting on that boat, shouldn't we? So I think we are starting to do that. Now, actually, if I'm more cynical, and if you catch me on a bad day, I know it's on a Friday, so we've all got smiles on our faces. Yeah. Actually, I do wonder whether there are real case studies behind that. Well, I'm going to introduce a couple in 1 second. A couple of last slides on what is this AI in project management. Now, there's lots of commentators that classify AI in project management. So this is my view of how to classify it. Now, the first thing I would say is what we're talking about here is unlocking that historical knowledge around your projects, the data, and trying to serve that as information as early as possible so that we as humans who run projects can take the right decisions at the right time, and we can do more for less as well. So in other words, we may be predicting project outcomes. And you think about if you know the likely outcome of a project with a high level certainty, maybe you don't approve that project in the first place. Or if you know that this particular project, you really need to get on top of this particular lesson or this particular risk, then actually maybe you'll enact on that sooner rather than later. So for me, it's all about being informed, data-driven decision making, and I like to think of this about efficiency and effectiveness. Yeah. So for me, the one dimension is doing things right, doing more for less, putting more projects, more projects through that sausage machine, as it were. However, and I think this is the point that a lot of people are missing. Yeah, it's also about the effectiveness of projects. Yeah, in other words, doing the right things. Yeah, so like I just said, the example of should I undertake that project? What decision should I make at this moment in the project life cycle? So please, people, think about the efficiency, doing things right, and the effectiveness side of doing the right things. Actually, ultimately, this is about unlocking data to reduce project costs and increase success. And if AI can help us do that, then we should all be embracing it, as it were. Now, let me tell you about how we classify some of the products around AI. And in the top left-hand corner, traditionally, there are lots and lots of standalone products. I mean, the last time I had a little look at it, and it was a couple of years ago, so I think this number's increased, there were over 150 PPM tools on the marketplace. 150 plus people. And I'm just talking about PPM tools. I'm not talking about dedicated risk tools, dedicated lessons tools, or resource planning, or financial tools, or change control tools as well. So these tools have been the first, and they're starting to embrace the use of AI. And the way that the majority of those tools have done that is to move towards chatbots and virtual assistants and the more complex ones, unlocking that data that are in large language models using some very clever what is now seen as relatively easy, but it's still clever technology for us to use natural language to interrogate these large language and serve us back with the answers around our projects. In fact, even helping us now to create project documentation. And there's a whole raft of workflow automation type products there. Copilot, Microsoft are hammering us. So robotic process automation. Now, me, and I'm going to talk more about this side, is on the insights and foresight. So this is where prediction really is happening. Yeah. So in other words, tell me that most likely outcome. For those that are really looking at the screen there, what you can see actually is that we've put that down as a 2 by 2 grid. So across the top, how much human involvement, and down the side, how adaptive the systems are. And if you read the statement on the right there, you can see as AI gets cleverer, yeah, there's going to be less human involvement. Now, I'm just going to stop and ask the audience a question here. So, Nadia, get ready to monitor the chat again. Does anybody in the audience think that there will be such a thing as bionic or self-directed projects? In other words, projects where there is no human in the loop, projects that are completely managed by AI. What's your thoughts, people? Just drop it in the chat. Are the robots going to take over? Yeah, is there going to be no need for us as humans to be running projects? Any early views, Nadia?
So far, only three, and it's three no's. The fourth no, one yes now.
Who was the
A
yes from?
few. Whoops, I've got to go back. So yes from Stephen Manning, a yes from Muhammad Abdulaziz now. I don't believe will be needed. No, no, no. So yes, so far
So the vast
it's
majority knows.
yes.
I'm actually with Stephen and Mohammed, and let me tell you why I think that. I think there's two dimensions that we need to consider. Certainly, the general rhetoric is that AI is our assistant. Yeah, I'm sure we've all seen it now. Your job won't be displaced by AI. Your job will be displaced by somebody who has AI skills. Yeah, that's what everybody is saying generally. I would ask the audience just to consider a couple of dimensions. If I ask the question about time, first of all, so if I said, do you think there will be bionic project managers in 100 years? My guess is that some of us may reflect and think that that is more likely. Yeah. So the amount of augmentation that the AI is doing already, let's not forget it was only November 22 when ChatGPT came to everybody's knowledge. Yeah. Already it's helping us do more, do fast. Yeah. If you roll forward 100 years, yeah, maybe it may be the case that AI will be running projects. Certainly not in the next 5 years, but maybe in 20 years, 30 years. I'm sure some of you may have seen that humanoid robots are being built and billions of pounds is being spent on factories as we speak. The other dimension I'd like you to consider is the simplicity or the level of complexity of a project. If a project is more repeatable, is literally a decision tree as to when it happens, yeah, I think it's more likely that will get automated from beginning to end now. And I'm sure people have got some ideas of where projects are more simple. In this world we live in, everything's a project these days, whether you're spending billions or spending pennies, everything is. So I honestly think if you consider this by time and by simplicity, you'll see. I was on a talk yesterday where somebody was saying that all knowledge workers will disappear in the future, will all get replaced by AI. Now, I don't want to be a scaremonger here, but technology is evolving at a fast rate. You as individuals must embrace and you must get on this bandwagon. You will be left behind if not. So I'll leave that thought with you. Ultimately, remember that point I made. Oh, sorry. Oh, thank you, Mohammed. Ultimately, that point about efficiency and effectiveness, that's how we want to embrace AI, as it were. Now, let me tell you some case studies, yeah, in terms of what we've been doing. At the top of the conversation, Nadia very kindly introduced Intelligent Project Prediction, IPP. The headline of this system is that it uses AI to provide executives with insights to increase project success. Let me try and get this to jump off the page for you by the use of an example. So I'm based in the UK, unless people didn't realise. Imagine if I looked at my historical experience of projects, that projects out of the UK that use supplier X, when I look through that historical knowledge, those projects would double the budget, double the time. The way this system works is through pattern recognition. So if you've got a live project that's coming out of the UK that uses supplier X, the system is going to identify that pattern and it's going to predict or propose that that particular project is at risk. Now, of course, I've given you a very basic example there of just recognizing two patterns, geographical region and key supplier. There are more features associated with a project, but not as many as you may think to be able to give you accurate predictions. Yeah, we run about 25 to 35. Yeah, we take a top-down view. Yeah, because we're only predicting the big moment. What will be the final budget? What will be the final go live date? And we found actually there's a lot less data points than you realize that may be required. So what we do is we predict those outcomes in terms of time and budget, but we also identify in a prioritized fashion the importance of those drivers. So is it the case that always UK projects are late? If so, let's raise a flag and let's do some transformation around the UK projects. Yeah, so that's the first thing we do. And we apply that to projects in delivery. But hold on a second, actually IPP is a suite of products. So there are further products still. Yeah, and the second one is you can apply exactly the same point to projects not yet started. So if you're proposing a project out of the UK that you supply X, then the system can predict what the most likely outcome of that project is as well. What we then realised was, hold on a second, it's all well and good telling people what the most likely outcome is and why, but actually, wouldn't it be great if you could start helping people to know what you can do to improve that project success? So we then stood up a third product around opportunities. Then what this does is allow us to pull some levers to improve the success. So for example, if we change the UK to France, Naja, obviously that project is going to be more successful in terms of a lower budget and quicker time. Now, so again, we prioritize those features that you could switch in terms of improving the likelihood of that success as well. One last thing I must mention, we've been really, really lucky that actually we've just made finalists of the year for APM projects, both in the technology and innovation space. So, I think back to our journey as an organization, finally people are starting to realize the power of AI, as it were. So wish me luck, people. The medal ceremonies in early November. I've got my tuxedo ready and everything. Hopefully I'll be giving some sort of speech, but hey, I'll take bronze, as it were. So anyway, right, how does it work, I hear you say? So the first thing for me that we do is we all know that the critical path in this from a technical perspective is about the data. You need the data to be able to train the machine learning models. So what we do is we come into an organization and we work out what data does or doesn't exist within that organization, both from a volume basis, both from a source basis, but also from a quality basis. And we do a data maturity assessment to benchmark the data within that organization. Now, what that allows us to do is several things. First of all, it allows us to then work out if the data is of a reasonable quality, to look for patterns in that data. Is there typically overspend? Is there typically delay? And we can benchmark a set of KPIs around that data that we can then monitor going forward, that hopefully with the implementation of IPP will improve those KPIs around the data. So there's that angle. The other angle it allows us to do is to work out the technical design for that particular organization. So if you imagine IPP is a vanilla product that is then configured for that particular organization, because as we know, every organization runs projects slightly differently. I mentioned the 150 ppm tools. Very rarely do I come across one organization that, even if it's got one standard tool, one of the bigger ppm tools, you guarantee it's doing something else around risks or finance or change control or something. So there's always a blend, and those processes are always different. So we have to configure this tool for this particular organization. If an organization has lower data maturity, then it's more of that question of transformation, crawl, walk, run, to improving the foundations around AI. But hey, half pint full, we've managed to move that data from the host organization into our cloud environment. We're Microsoft partners for those that care. So we're an Azure backend. We serve at the front end using Power BI, which obviously gives you the benefit of integrating with existing dashboards as well. What we do is we run a whole heap of machine learning models, and then the system automatically picks off the prediction model that is proving to be the most accurate for that data set. By accuracy, I'm talking about the difference between what the prediction is suggesting and what actually happened on that project. So that 90% plus that I talked about 1 second ago, that's looking at the difference between the prediction and what actually happened at the project right at the start as well. We then have to obviously display that prediction. Now, this actually draws me to the second part of this. This is not just a technical journey. As Nadja knows, this is as much importance of a change management journey as it is a technical journey. Change management must be a work stream sitting alongside this technical journey. You can imagine, this hard-nosed, long in the tooth project manager who's reporting that their project's on budget, and suddenly the prediction system is going, whoa, hold on, go and have a little look at this person. that person is going to be resistant to the highest extreme. So there's a number of actions that we put in place to mitigate that, both technically. So for example, that accuracy I just talked about is shown front and center in the system, and not only as a one-off moment, but over time. But also we look to educate those people and finally embed prediction within the workflows, within the process of that organization. Can you imagine projects that are underway? This can be part of the reporting process or the assurance process. Projects that not yet started, if you're proposing a business case, tell me what the prediction system is generating. And within that, we also have this thing that we call explainability. So we won't just say this is the prediction, we'll say, look, this is based on these similar projects. So you start getting a feel that where the system is matching and unlocking that black box that was traditionally machine learning. Right, I'm just going to do one more slide, two more slides, and then I'll stop to see if there's any questions. Yeah. So, case study. This particular organisation had 300 projects live at any one moment in time. There's about 100 projects. Financially, they're worth about 250 million. So it's quite a big organisation. It's a global organisation, and they had that typical challenge that projects were overrunning, overspending, and executives were like, whoa, there's so much going on. Which project shall I look at first? I'm firefighting all the time. I'm in issue management mode and I'm constantly pushing bits of paper, change controls around and all this noise in the system. Yeah. So it was about working out which projects to focus on as well. So this particular organization uses PlanView, and that's the core data source for us. So we have an API into PlanView. And once we got through that first moment of training the ML models, we take a regular ingest. So in line with their monthly progress report, we take the latest report on their individual projects, any new projects or any closed projects as well. And we play back to them the predictions, the data maturity assessment, the drivers for those predictions, both at the individual project level and the portfolio level. So we guide the human as to where to go and look. Now, I'm extremely proud to say that actually where there was clean data, we got up to 96, 95% in terms of prediction accuracy, measuring what happened versus what the prediction system said. Now, for those that are more technically minded, they'll know that it's an ongoing journey to maintain those levels of accuracy. And that's where we have a team that's called machine learning operations. That's where the data scientists are constantly experimenting with new algorithms as well. We also increase the data maturity. And more importantly, we've given the organization an opportunity to improve project success. And this is going to be my slide before I just stop and take a sip of coffee, if I may. First of all, data quality. We've literally turned the dial on data quality. Remember what I said earlier, people, the relationship between data maturity, project management maturity, and project success is really important. So even if we did nothing else, this organization is likely to see an improvement in its project success. Actually, we did more than that. For those projects that were over budget, we significantly reduced the number of projects over budget, but also the amounts that they were over budget as well. And I can tell you that on that £250 million portfolio, that gave them an opportunity there for significant savings. Now, of course, it's now down to us as humans to make that savings. I can give somebody the tightest, the most accurate prediction in the world, but that doesn't mean to say anybody is going to act on it. Naja, just while I take a sip of coffee, is there one or two questions in the chat from anybody?
No question so far at the moment. So if you have a question, please put it in the chat. But there are a few things in the comments when you were talking about AI basically doing all the job and replacing humans. A few ideas here that maybe it's worth getting your view. So yeah, there was a clear distinction that yes, if projects are relatively simple and that we can imagine that, but if it's a complex project, no way. So there has been that was one
Yeah,
relative
I
way of
think,
seeing that.
we all get very passionate about this subject of automation or robotics, etc. And I have sympathy for that, you know. But what I should have said in that case study, yeah, we weren't just talking about one type of project. We were talking about technology projects, property projects, change projects as well. So the whole gamut. And we're already showing, let's not forget, this is nascent technology. This is the beginning of this journey. But we're already showing that you can make huge savings. I personally think if somebody can get me the facts a lot more rapidly, then I'm going to be more constructive. Yeah. I think it probably is a philosophical question whether you believe that technology will actually start running projects. It's probably quite a sensitive subject, but for example, some of the world's atrocities at the moment where we have drone wars going on, they're not necessarily controlled by humans, those drones. They're controlled by computers. Now, maybe that's not an equal parallel, but I just want to get you to think that the world is evolving at a rapid rate. For me, it's more about doing good. So for example, wouldn't it be great if we could start using products like this in the world of sustainability, and helping solve that, or helping solve the speed that we brought cancer curing drugs to market. So no right or wrong answer. Quite happy to stand over a glass of whiskey or something with whoever raised that and debate that till the cows come home. I can tell you, I can show you example after example after example that technology is getting increasingly intuitive. Um, any
Thank
other
you.
questions
Yes,
while we're there?
actually, while you were answering that one, we've got three questions coming in. So one is actually about a tool, asking how, just a short answer here, how ChatGPT or Gemini can help in project management. Because I
Yeah,
guess
I mean,
most people have access
for
to that.
me, yeah, for me, this is on the efficiency side. Yeah, so for those people that missed the start, I was talking about efficiency, which is about doing things right. So they can help in all sorts of areas, and whether that's as basic as rewriting emails to make them more direct and objective, and possibly even more informed, or to the creation of work breakdown structures, key project documentation, etc. I remember, when I was a boy, yeah, I used to start projects, and the first thing I used to do is I used to get off the shelf something I built up over experience, which was like a vanilla risk log. Yeah, so it had what the generic set of risks were. I had one for work breakdown structures as well. But I then used to run this risk workshop, which would take all of these key people out for a day. And I still miss those days. Post-it notes on brown paper. What's the risk? Who owns it? What's the mitigate? All of that stuff. I can do that so more rapidly now. All of that preparation time, all of that thinking time, I can take something. So for me, it's about accelerating that 80-20 rule. So that was one example, Naja. Shall I move on? And there should be time at the end. So we've
Yes,
got
we
about
can.
another
Yeah.
10-15 minutes, and there should be a good 5-10 minutes at the end as
Yes,
well.
yes. And I'll
Um,
go through the other questions at the end. Yeah.
Fantastic, Naja. So the other case study I wanted to talk about was this other product about intelligent project lessons. Now, we all know that when it comes to lessons around projects, that we've all been guilty of it. It's shelfware. If we happen to have captured the lesson, we've captured them in an unstructured way. What I mean by that is that very rarely are they governed and data quality assessed by the project manager who's just trying to tick a box to get the end of the project, to hit the rubber stamp before they've already been dragged off to start their next project, as it were. We were lucky enough that this particular organization had a product, it was called Lesson Flow for anybody that cares, that stored their lessons. So they recognized the importance of lessons. And, they had over 5,000 lessons. What we did is we started implementing this product. Now, the first thing we did is we realized that you could start mapping lessons together. How did we do that? We looked at those lessons, because typically lessons are recorded at the end of a project. Yes, sometimes at the end of a phase, but typically at the end of a product. And that project normally has a unique identifier associated with it. And we can look at the features. Back to what I said earlier, remember the features, the projects out of the UK that use supplier A, give me the lessons for those projects out of the UK that use supplier A, match those to the live projects that are coming out of the UK using supplier A. So I'm now serving the lessons from history to that particular project. This is where Gen AI gets really clever for me as well, talking about use cases. Yeah, Gen AI is great at consolidating and summarizing. I dare anybody, if they haven't done it, to ingest a document into Gen AI and ask for a summary of it. It's fantastic. Gone are the days that we have to read 100 pages PDF to see exactly what's going on, as it were. So in terms of lessons, what we did is we used Gen AI to objectify and summarize those lessons. So in other words, rather than those 100 lessons where 50% of them repeated from those projects out of the UK using supplier X, I've just got a lot less, as it were. Obviously, one of the challenges we had was about the leveling of those lessons, to make sure they weren't too high level, but also they weren't so specific that, that goes back to the uniqueness of every individual project. Now, you can not only do that on the lesson side, but you can also do that on the mitigation side as well. So you start getting the best of breed mitigations of those lessons as well. So that's what we did. We then also took the bold move. So ignore the security dimension, guys, because obviously we put security mitigations in place, but we delved into OpenAI, ChatGPT, to blend what they would say to mitigate that lesson as well. Longer term, I think this is a really interesting debate about the source of truth. And again, any philosophers amongst you will really get into what is true, as it were. So let's not go down that path for the moment. But things like, I don't know, the knowledge base of PMI, is that sufficiently factual that maybe rather than OpenAI we should be delving into, we should be using that, or other professional bodies, or academic research in particular areas? Where is the truth, as it were? It's quite an interesting debate. Where I'm at on all of that sort of stuff is those organizations that are standing up their own knowledge bases. I think it's only a matter of time when they realize they can't keep up with the bigger tech companies. So again, I'm just a personal view. I would stick to those bigger tech companies because I think they'll get all of the data surrounded in them. But obviously, we want to get this more and more intuitive. Now, what we found was absolutely fascinating. And I'll just give you a little example. This particular organization had a function in place called investment control. And investment control appraises the business cases ahead of them being approved. So the project manager proposes the project, says it's going to take this long, it's going to cost this much. Yeah. And of course, then they go, oh, look at that project because it's similar, and look at those. Have you learned that lesson? And I've been there. Yes, of course, I've learned that lesson as well. So if you imagine that the quick example here is actually we're doing the majority of their job for them. We're not only appraising the most likely outcome of that project, we're saying where are the similar projects, and we're saying where are the associated lessons and risks associated with that project. In other words, they can get on and do a higher quality job than actually searching around, trying to find that data and trying to find that lesson. In terms of the way the system works, it's very similar to prediction. But the other thing I just want to allude to quickly is how to prioritize lessons. What we found is you can obviously prioritize them in terms of how often they occur. Maybe that's a measure of importance. think, again, that person who's going to have the pint with me about whether the robots exist in the future, we can have a longer conversation on that. I think it's really interesting. But actually, the other way that we did it was because it was integrated with the prediction side, it meant you could start prioritizing lessons about those projects that overspent or were delayed as well. I was asked the other day about how do you know whether it's the right lesson or the right risk that you're raising? And for me, this is all about the future iteration. Yeah. So we're picking that data. Was that the right lesson, project manager? Gather the data, feed it back into the system. So it's part of our continuous learning bucket, as it were. Right. I better quickly tell you about the challenges. Yeah. So I know that the first one that you all knew the challenge was somebody's AI companions on, people. Great. So the first one was all about data, garbage in, garbage out, all of that sort of stuff. And I think you can't shy away from this. Get yourselves a data strategy. One word of caution with it is try not to be too clever about it as well. Try not to govern every little morsel of data, because we as humans will work ourselves around that system. What's the core data that you need? What's the core enterprise data model, as it were? And as I said earlier, that's built completely into the system, as it were. The next key challenge for us is obviously this is innovation. Yeah, standing a system up like this, like I said, I'm grayer than I was when I started this journey. It's a continuous journey. Now, I think it's really interesting, in this world, is every company's becoming a data company. Whether that you've seen it, Amazon, Netflix, all of this sort of stuff. It gets really interesting about the projects dimension. Are we now saying we're a projects data organization as well? That means that we've got to build that infrastructure. That means that we've got to continuously train those models. I'll let you decide whether that's a wise longer term decision or not. The other main thing for me is about change management, and people are resistant to change, so you need to embrace this and build it into your ways of working. And that sort of builds on into we were really, really lucky to have a fantastic sponsor at board level, and I think this is not just this project, but any project for success needs a great sponsor. So, an empowered sponsor as well, who manage to influence people, bring people with you as well. So a fantastic lesson there for you guys. I talked about data. I think the other point is about processes. I'm not sure I touched on this enough earlier. Even with simplistic data models, it's likely that your processes might need a little bit of a tweak. So embrace those, get it right now for the future. It's an ongoing journey. We didn't get to those prediction accuracy levels the first time we stood the system up. We then had to work with the organization to improve the data, but also shimmy or evolve some of the key processes. I mentioned change management, but ultimately it's also been interesting that you have to take beyond that moment. I'm sure we've all been in a meeting where somebody's like, "Oh, where did that number come from? I don't believe it." You've got to get beyond that moment, and obviously we put mitigations in there, showing that accuracy. But it's about embedding this into your workflows and actually actioning and the insights, and you'll get to those project savings I alluded to earlier a lot quicker. Okay, I'm just going to skip this. The headline here is it's not you don't flick this type of system on. It takes a little while to get to the headlines, get to the benefits, as it were. So sorry. So this is last couple of slides. In summary, AI is actually transforming the way that projects are run. It will continually transform. The journey has just begun. We've proved that you can predict what is the likely outcome of a project. We've proved that actually you can get behind the black box and say why that prediction is happening. And then finally, you can see that we're also helping us to guide us towards improving the outcomes. I love that little quote from our sponsor there, which is about the use of AI, and just, goes back to that person challenging about the use of AI, and read the second sentence there. For me, I just repeat, it's about using AI for good. So, and in the short term, working out how to drive efficiency, doing things right, and effectiveness, doing the right things. Thank you so much for listening. I know there's time for Q&As. Can I just encourage you, if you wish, please connect with me. That QR code is to LinkedIn. For those that are interested on a corporate level, I'd encourage you to take our readiness test. If you go to our website, it will literally take you less than 5 minutes to see whether your organization is ready to start this journey. But thank you so much for listening so far. Nadia, do we have some questions for the last 5 to 10 minutes?
Yes, we do. We have a few questions. Yes. So there were questions actually that you've already answered, that people having concerns about obviously the data quality. That yes, you need good quality data. Basically, your output will be correlated to your input. Yes.
Yeah, you need a data strategy, and again, it goes back to the level of maturity. If you are, a low mature organization, in other words, your data is not carefully monitored, managed, and governed, then actually you need to work out how to put that in place, which actually, remember, data is created by process. So it's about, and we as humans are operators of process. So it's about a top to bottom approach around your project controls, your project maturity, as it were. So.
Absolutely, absolutely. Then we had a question from Farah saying, how would IPP work for non-traditional, non-predictive projects?
So I think there's two parts to that question. Yeah. Our domain is either waterfall or hybrid projects. So what I mean by that is that those projects always had a business case. They always had a planned budget. They always had a planned go live. We actually did some work around the agile world, and we as an organization decided not to pursue an agile product. And that was due to the complexity of building an agile product, along with other objectives we have as an organization. I've said it a couple of times, we're very keen around sustainability. I'm also keen about the psychology of projects and the neuroscience behind the projects as well. So we as an organization have decided that strategically that's the direction for us. However, the second part of that conversation, assuming that they are in that waterfall or hybrid world, is I would argue that all projects are predictive. Yeah, no matter what type of project. Back to the case study, they were technology projects, they were business change projects, they were property projects. Back to, we're predicting at the highest level, and we've proved that they are predictive. I must tell you, I went on this talk it was about 4 years ago, and it was, I can't remember now, but he's Sir something or other in the UK's police force. And he was the first user of the body cam and predictive analytics in police crime. And the story he gave was so interesting. It was about, can you predict where the next crime is going to take place? And actually, the answer was yes. We as humans are far more predictive. And it went further, not only where it's going to take place, but the likely makeup of the persona of the person who's going to undertake the crime and what type of crime it would be. Scary people, but there you go. So back to the same point, I believe projects are predictive.
Yeah, thank you. Then we had questions around actually the specificity of the AI tool used by organization, and whether you believe that actually project companies will actually develop their own AI, or are they more likely to go with AI providers?
So for me, this is a fact, obviously it's a fascinating conversation as being an AI provider. I think what we're seeing in some areas of industry at the moment is low maturity. And what I mean by that is a lot of organizations have not gone through that build or buy analysis. And as you know, there are benefits for building and there's benefits for buying. Obviously, I believe the buying outweighs the build benefit, because, the knowledge that we get across multiple clients, the fact that, we've invested millions to build the product so far, the fact that we have a team that is constantly evolving what is the latest and greatest AI, as it were. I think on the efficiency side, I think it's slightly different because you've got big tech companies like Microsoft, etc., really pushing products like Copilot. And I think again it's really fascinating because it's putting the power into the individual's hands. And it's a bit like, those clever people that could write macros in Excel. And then suddenly they leave the organization and you're like, oh my golly, how does this macro work? I want to evolve this spreadsheet. So there is risk involved as well, in my view. And I think technology divisions will get more and more controlling around the architecture, around the business application layer as well. But yeah, it's a fascinating conversation. I'm sure I could talk more about that. But generally speaking, I think it's a case by case basis. But I would encourage organizations to do that analysis about build or buy.
Thank you very much. Two more questions, and one not related to AI, but I'll ask you still at the end. So one question is about how machine learning and AI will be used or can be used for the governance of
Mm.
projects.
If governance means meetings and a meeting frequency and what's being presented, and what actions are taken, I'm going to start talking about, the system that we're talking about here is Power BI. Why do we still insist on taking PowerPoint decks into meetings when it can all be online, including the capture of the minutes automatically, because we record stuff and it's automatically transcribed, and then into actions and even prompts, and chasing actions on risks, etc. So from that point of view, I think there's a massive use case for AI, both on the progress side, but also on the actual monitoring the meeting side as well. I think the other one for me is around the change management piece, and what we see from the likes of PMI is this conversation about it's ultimately about the power skills. Yeah, so Nadia, you're in a good position. It's ultimately AI is going to do all the heavy lifting for us. It's going to tell us where to look, but ultimately it's going to be about influencing, decision making, change management. And I have some sympathy with that. And it's certainly, in the time horizons that I was talking about, I think it will increasingly become about those power skills. But remember, we're just starting this journey. So anybody that is only just starting to experiment with AI probably hasn't got as mature on that people side as well. I want to help working on the sustainability stuff probably ahead of that. But yeah, it's a fascinating conversation about governance for me.
Thank you. So another question came up in the meantime. What would be one baby step that you could suggest for implementing AI in projects?
So I would say take that readiness test. Let's work out where you are from a benchmark point of view, and then we can tailor the answer to that question. But technically, it's all about that data maturity. Yeah. So working out your data strategy. Yeah. So the one side is the technical side. The other baby set is on the human side. Go and find a sponsor. Go and find people that believe in the benefits. Go and get projects underway. Start doing proof of concepts. Start experimenting. Start embracing. Start upskilling yourself. Start coming to these webinars and listening to them. So sorry, that they were all baby steps, but you get my point. Run it like a
Yes.
project. you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, last question before I close this webinar with an announcement, and that has nothing to do with AI, but somebody was curious. Why do you have a bird on your logo?
Oh, I've got a lovely story of this. So my story is that I obviously spent millions on a branding company that designed the grey fly bird, etc. It wasn't as it wasn't as complex as that actually. When I started out, my son designed it. I loved it because I think it, for me, it's the sort of, and along with the towers, it's sort of learning to fly, moving forward, as it were. So, but great question. Thank you so much, whoever asked that.
Lovely story, lovely story. Thank you very much, Lloyd. It was really insightful, and I'm sure it was very helpful to many, all of our attendees here. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Before we let you off, I just want to tell you about a membership community that the IPM will be launching very soon. So if you're interested in networking, increasing your knowledge, and have the support of a community and all its resources, I'm putting the link now in the chat that you can have a look about this membership. So go have a look, and it will be launched very soon. So stay tuned for more news about that. So thank you very much, everyone. And well, see you in the next IPM webinar next month. Bye, everyone. Bye, Lloyd.
Right.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Nadia, for your help, and everybody have a lovely day.